At this time, I want to open the meeting of the Carver Conservation Commission for April 18th, 2018. Our first order of business is COC request.
That's for later.
Yeah. Okay, for 131 South Main Street. Jay and Lady Johnson. And
That was one we looked at today,
yes,
for the house and the septic.
right. And we felt the situation was fine, right?
Yep.
So we will issue a COC
Yep.
and a motion to do so.
I'll make that motion.
Okay, been moved to,
Do a COC
I'll second it.
for 131 South Main Street, DEP SE 126-436,
right.
Jay and Lita Johnson.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to issue the COC for DEP SE 126-436. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimously.
Here's the paperwork. You get to sign first. Always goes to the king.
I'm using your special
You're gonna
pen.
get a fat head if you say that.
It's usually the special pens.
Okay, then next we have minutes.
Maybe the rest will go that easily. What do you think? I got one somewhere.
Just in case they take yours.
Oh, thanks.
You gave me one.
So if everyone would peruse the draft copy of the minutes from April 11th and see if they approve them or if they have problems.
There's only three. Tim's?
I stay tomorrow. Sign it.
I'm good. We good here?
I'm good.
Good,
All right,
good.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of April 11th as written.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of April 11th, 2018 as written. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Again, passed unanimously. Okay. Then,
Okay. I don't think there's any other.
And I'm gonna sit here.
getting far too efficient.
Sorry.
He's coming.
Yeah.
No, he reads them.
Yeah, he's got
Right.
one.
You didn't read that though. So he's got the other one.
Oh, you
He's
need two?
supposed to. Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, but I cannot read them until closer to the thing, about 12 minutes after.
You guys. Sorry.
Get me in trouble, you put it here.
Well, you can read if you wanted. I just want to let you know. There is a DP site visit for, I think they call it Purchase
Floating
Street.
solar.
Yeah, Zero Purchase Street, the floating solar project. Yep.
At what time?
Good, that was appealed by the neighbors. And that's on Thursday, April 26th at 10:45.
This is getting to be a full-time job. Are we going to be able to retire from it?
At
Ask for
10:45,
more for your stipend.
you want to meet here?
$8.
I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go,
Well, you're no fun.
but that was the one we had to walk, like, remember we walked a million miles to get out there?
Yeah.
What?
What's the matter?
Well, we did. Remember we
No,
walked
we
in
drove
from the
out.
long side last time?
Yeah, well, we drove
But you
out there
can
the
drive
second
out.
time when it was...
I'll loan you Bear. He'll drag you out there.
Oh, you can get, yeah,
He's retired.
You can either park along Great Meadow and
Yeah.
walk in along the Power Line Road,
yeah.
or come off of Purchase Street and
Yeah.
follow the trucks up there.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to go because I think I
Okay.
have another appointment, but
Okay.
hopefully I can. But
thought we weren't gonna-
you're going to go.
I plan
This is the one
to,
with
yeah.
Steve Ward and,
Right, yeah.
I thought we weren't going to do any more site visits till it hit 70 degrees.
oh, we weren't. It's going to be 70 next week.
Okay.
Sounds good.
So what time?
Remember the last time we were out there? That one was
10:45.
like 0.
It's snowing.
We should arrange to
Somebody
have
somewhere. I don't
Yeah.
remember how to get there.
a wagon like, you know, the more dogs.
The one
When I
that
used to
came-
go down to Fort Bragg for
But it's
activities
basically
down there,
DEP goes
they
out
had
there.
canteen trucks that came right to the field behind it.
Observation.
Yeah, I'm not sure what.
That was amazing.
I guess because they can see it. But I think it's
Okay.
a pilot project. 'Cause if that was only a pilot, a pilot project, I mean, I think it's kind of like,
What's the
I think they're
address?
kind of
What's the
done.
address?
It says zero
In
purchase.
other words, I don't even know if they still want to go ahead and do it, because weren't they just
mean,
going
that's
to
not-
leave
I
it
don't
as
know.
a
I've been
winter?
trying to hear from Steve, and
Zero
I
purchase.
don't know. He's
At least it could be a place
this
to
43 neighbors getting upset
Right.
about it
Yeah, but
is
once
totally
upon a time,
ridiculous.
work.
But
That's the same
But I
place
thought,
around back
remember, it was
where
going to
we
be a
were.
pilot project, and I thought it was going to
Yeah.
be for the winter, to see how the floating solar.
oh no, well, it's
acted.
the winter and summer too.
Oh, okay.
But the biggest thing is that
No, that's Vaughn
Well,
Pond.
one of them, you know
That's
what I mean.
Mondelez.
But DEP was
Right,
working on the
okay.
other thing.
So
the
here's-
enforcement.
yeah,
Come on, get back to.
we'll see.
Yeah, those.
I'm pretty disgusted with the
Yeah,
attitude,
DEP's
but it's
been
not-
really, yeah.
as long as they leave
So this is
McCutcheon in
Purchase
charge
Street.
of that, it's
Right.
going to be a problem.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not really fair for
We went out
the
Purchase
applicant,
Street,
because he wanted
and
to
it was
do
passed
it, didn't be able to do anything. Now I think he
Fosdick.
doesn't even want to do it anymore.
and passed
I'm
on
not
it.
sure.
Yep.
This was
think he may
Great
be-
Meadow Drive. The
That's what he
first
said.
time
He
we
said
went,
he
we
was
parked
getting,
on Great Meadow and we
It's-
walked all the way over here.
Yeah.
But if you go up Purchase Street,
It's cost them a fair amount of money, I think,
I
already.
See
can
Hogs
see
on
that
your
from the
right.
road,
Yeah.
right, okay.
then you make a right and you just drive right around and it's
Right, I got
right
it.
here.
Yeah, right.
I don't know what they decided about
I
the
got it.
enforcement
So it's,
stuff, but
it's Purchase Street almost at the Middleborough line.
I talked to Brian down at the growers a little bit about it, but it's still not perfectly clear.
yeah.
So we just have to
Period.
see.
For the floating electric solar, period. All right, good.
Yeah, so they have, hello?
I don't
They
know.
have these,
I thought it was
But
Star
I'll
Wars
put my
there.
phone away.
the floating solar panels, and they're hooked together like little Legos, and they push them into the pond, and then they go up and down with the water.
Star
and-
Wars for a second.
It was kind of an experiment, and then the neighbors appealed it, and
All right, we ready?
Gotta wait
a
till
lot of
10,
Europe
7:15.
Yeah.
It's new, it's a new
so
hearing.
I don't know, it doesn't, there's no,
I
I
like
mean, there's
when-
no
I could put the valve out front
chance
and
of any kind of electric thing going on. As soon as they say floating solar, they go, oh my God.
You say shake to him and he'll say, yeah, what?
Isn't they're on these
He's been trained to
platforms.
do that,
guys,
so he
that
says,
it's
no,
not
I
Yeah.
don't do
electric.
that. It's
Well,
not
that's
my
right. The solar is
contract.
supported on each one of the floats, and then they're tied in with, I think they have individual inverters in this case, and then they're wired together.
Yeah.
And it's,
You wanna know how dumb this guy is?
I don't know, the fear is just beyond me. I don't understand it.
Someone logs in and so forth. He's had to help me. Except he
But
went
you
in and
remember
got
that
the plug and brought it
people
out.
used to run out and screaming in the road when a horseless carriage
Side
went
of
by.
his face, his hair on the top of his
You
head.
can put them on reservoirs, but you can't put them on like natural ponds. Like, so you couldn't
Look what
put
I got.
floating
Yeah,
solar
flames.
Destroy
panels
the,
in the pond.
He probably won't do
But
that
they,
again.
but they were
Yeah.
like
He yipped.
reservoirs.
Pretty good,
that were
yeah.
dug,
I checked his
as a
mouth.
reservoir.
So,
Good.
You know?
mm,
but how stupid can you be? Jesus. That's what happens when you have.
it's okay to pollute the
Can't
natural
open it
ponds,
until
but we can't do anything healthy on
do
them.
it after, but
Just
not until
harness
the
it and catch
the
fire,
actual
too.
pond.
Yeah.
Just advertise it. Say if a neighbor showed up and opened it and started talking and closed it or whatever.
Anytime you're gonna come to a lot for jacking and the thought I have, it, I mean, it's so nice. You can take it out there.
Oh, I think they are. They know.
That thing's,
Everybody knows that.
it's self-leveling. I mean, it's real. You just leave it.
We have to wait till 7:15 to start the hearing that's next.
We're not just sitting here doing nothing.
Yes, we are. We just.
Oh, we are, yeah, but I mean,
I just thought we should let you guys
but there
know
is a
that.
reason. There's a reason that we're not doing it.
Whispering.
Yeah, we're not doing nothing for nothing.
We're being Massachusetts municipal employees doing
We're
nothing.
doing nothing. Yes.
Nothing for nothing.
3 people looking at their watch saying, you know, what the heck's going
You
on?
don't get paid nothing to do it anyhow.
Oh, you don't get paid anyway. You
No,
didn't take it.
no money. No money. You give it back to the town.
May 2nd.
So we're basically still missing
Yeah.
one person.
Yeah.
Okey-dokey. Yeah, but it's just, Well, to Andrew's point,
Yeah.
the two continued ones, but they're kind of like, no, well, yeah,
Yeah.
I need them.
Maybe at the end of the meeting, we'll bring that up out in the minutes from last time, that we correct.
I had her, told me, she's just gonna
Is that
check.
camera
Okay.
going?
Okay, well, good enough then.
Is the camera going?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is it on?
Pull up to past, so
Okay.
it's fine, that can stay amended.
Well, as long as the
So you should
camera's
just, send it to Deb again, and Deb can just give them back.
Try to somebody.
Okay, so we don't have to go through any.
Excuse me, Jim,
We're okay
Yeah.
with
may I say something?
Yeah, I think so.
Thank you. I just wanted your permission, you being the chair.
You may.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are a commission of 5. We now have a commission of 4 with us. We're looking for another volunteer. We will help you if you come and join our commission. You get schooling out of it. We go to school twice a year. It's a day school that teaches you the basics. There are 9 basic classes that we take care of for you. And it's very rewarding to be up here and figure out what you can and cannot do. We're not here to arbitrarily say, no, you can't do this. We have a law we go by that's set up by the state, and we also have some town bylaws. You'll catch on very quickly. We could, anybody out there in TV land too, well, we'd love to have somebody come in and work with us. Thank you.
And you will see parts of Carver you never even knew.
Oh, yeah. We're out.
Dirt
That's another
roads
thing.
galore. Travel is extensive.
Yeah, don't say that. You scare them
You get to
over
walk on the coal property.
You get to walk.
And
Don't scare them
trip
away.
over logs.
I beg your pardon?
Okay,
Oh, vacation package, yeah.
Yes.
that
Get to
works.
vacation at the coal property.
in
You
December.
get to sit here from 7:05 to 7:15 twice every month. That's your vacation.
Okay, at this point, notice is hereby given in accordance with the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw that a public hearing will be held at 7:15 PM on Wednesday, April 18th, 2018, in Meeting Room 1 in the Carver Town Hall, to hear the notice of intent submitted by Borrego Solar Systems, Inc. for the proposed construction of a ground-mounted solar voltaic array on a 2-acre active cranberry bog and within the 100-foot buffer zone of other cranberry bogs
I want to give you that too.
on the property. The proposed work is within resource area bordering vegetated wetland and within the 65-foot no disturb buffer and will require a variance under the bylaw. The existing cranberry bog will continue operation as a cranberry bog, and vines will be mowed and sold on an annual or biannual basis. A stormwater management plan has also been submitted for the project. The project is located at 0 Rear Center Street, Carver, Mass., map 70, lot 1. All interested parties are invited to attend.
Good evening. My name is Richard Rayom. I'm with Prime Engineering, and with me are 2 representatives of Borrego.
I'm sorry? I didn't catch the last what you said.
There are 2 individuals from Borrego Solar who are
Thank you.
also here. I've colored this plan to show the natural BVW in green. This pink line is the 100-foot setback from the natural BVW, bordering vegetated wetlands. The proposed solar panels I've shown in blue, and these are existing cranberry bogs. The proposal is to place these panels with a series of posts that are driven into the ground. Racks are set up, the panels are put on that. The strings are brought to an underground trench that brings the low voltage electricity to a small concrete pad located right there. That's where the inverter converts it to alternating current. Transformer boosts it up in voltage. There are meters, and then it's run underground in trenching out to Center Street, with 3 utility poles are going to be erected, and those are basically where the power company can break the circuit in case there's a problem with the solar field. So there are electrical devices mounted on each pole. As stated in the legal notice, the intention is to continue to farm the bog upon which it's based. Basically, the sugar content in the berries isn't high enough because of the shading to qualify as a marketable product, but the vines are very marketable. So they're typically harvested every 2 years and sold to other farmers. They're house vines, so they're highly prized vines. There's some activity during construction, but once the field is constructed, there's just very infrequent visitors just to check the condition of the panels.
Richard, what type of a bog is this? Is this an upland bog or a
Oh,
wetland?
it's a wetlands bog.
Okay.
So,
You have your reclamation area on there?
pardon?
Your reclamation area, do you have a reclamation area?
Yeah, the amount of room that the posts take up will have to be
Replicated.
replicated.
Replicate.
Yeah.
Under agricultural provisions of the Wetland Act, that is not necessarily required.
I'm
As long
sorry.
as it's agricultural.
No, that's not true.
That's not true. No.
Sorry.
Okay, if,
Just to interject on that point, I'm Dean Smith from Borrego Solar.
Yes.
The piles themselves are an H-beam or I-beam type of
Right.
steel beam. They're driven into the ground.
Right.
And the cross-sectional area of each of those posts is only 2.96 square inches.
Doesn't matter.
So
You need
Right.
reclamation for
there
it.
are 300 of them. When you multiply that
it's
out
27.
over the area that's disturbed, it's less than 10 square feet total.
so we will replicate the 10 square feet.
You'll have to show us where you're putting it.
We'll have to add that.
Yes, you will.
The general permit criteria for Massachusetts under nationwide permit 13 allows for up to 5,000 square feet without replication.
No, 500.
5,000 is what's in the,
You have to replicate up
with
to, if it's
replication.
over
Our practice in the
5,000.
past has been, where it's a wetland bog, that replication is called for.
it's a very small amount. so
I understand.
It'll be easy to find a location,
Yeah.
so
Right.
we'll have to add that to our plan
Yeah.
for the future.
I think the notice said it was 27. I think the notice said 27.
Yeah,
27?
it did.
Yeah.
Yeah, most of the ones that we've had in the past have been, used a box girder, so there was more room taken up by them. But we'll look into it, I'm sure.
Okay, there should be ample opportunity for that.
Yeah.
Somewhere around the perimeter of the bog to recreate, or around the perimeter of the existing natural wetland area. So
We'll,
we'll look at that with our biologists and
Yeah.
pick an appropriate.
and we'll
spot.
probably get a lot of attention from the DEP on it.
Well, yeah, I mean, they made some
This doesn't show the,
very
This doesn't
vague
show
comments.
the,
Doesn't show the what?
the location of the solar.
Oh,
the solar
maybe you
panel.
might have, maybe you only have the existing one? Sorry.
Sorry, we don't have the right plans. I want to make sure we have it right.
I might have only sent, oh, I didn't send that one down, I'm sorry.
How'd I get lucky?
I don't know. They got split up. There we go. Sorry about that.
Much better than you.
Yeah. I'm looking at it. Okay, so what? Okay, it's fairly cut and dried out of the presentation as far as we're concerned.
Yeah, we looked at it today.
Right, we had a field walk today. So
We, do we make a call on it?
I don't have a problem with the presentation so far. I'd like to ask if we have any of the abutters that have some interest in this.
Please, come on up, please.
Should we do our
Do
discussion
you,
first?
you want,
Let's,
you guys?
can we do ours, our little bit first?
Okay, do we have more discussion? Okay, I didn't realize.
Oh, just,
Right.
yeah, we have a few
Okay.
things we'd
Oh,
like to
all
ask.
My question is, we were out there today, the bogs looked to be in good shape. you know,
Right.
they've been cleaned, they were all groomed. What was the reason what is the reason behind not continuing to have it as a functioning cranberry bog?
It is going to still be a functioning cranberry bog for the purpose of raising vines rather than berries.
And what is the
Cranberry
reason for that?
bog growers are having difficult times in past few years because of the low cost that the berries are generating. It sometimes costs a bog owner more money to run his bog than he gets in
That's correct.
collecting for the berries.
Right, but you said something earlier about the fact that the berries were not sellable, but the vines would be.
No. The berries grown under the solar panels, because they're shaded, their sugar content will
Okay.
be too low to have it marketable. But the vines will be marketable.
Okay, but the berries as they are now growing are fine.
Are fine, yes.
Next question I have is on the, did I misunderstand you when I heard you say every other year? Or did I misunderstand that, or did you say that?
No, my understanding is that it takes several years for the vines to recover so that you can trim them again. So you either do half the bog one year and the other half the other year, or you go every 2 years for the whole bog.
I don't get that.
It basically, you're
I guess
saying it
once
needs
you
2
cut
years
it,
to regenerate itself to the point.
After you cut it.
After you cut it.
Takes a while for them to grow back, I
It
guess.
takes 2 years before you can cut it
Got
again.
it, got it.
So you either do half and half or...
Yep, I got that. Thank you.
Other questions?
Yes. The panel itself, what is the spacing between the rows?
Be-
Between the rows of panels?
Between the rows, I don't know, do you know the spacing?
The reason that, we're talking about the light spacing, that's what we're looking at. How much light between, one panel, 2 panels, what's that space in between for light?
You're talking about the string, this,
The
No, no,
rows, the
we're talking
rows
about the panels, the
panels
distance
themselves?
between
reflection
the
of the
rows?
panels,
No,
in
the-
between the panels, how much
Oh,
space for light?
there's just a couple of inches between
No, between each row.
Each row?
each row.
Yes.
Right.
What is the spacing?
It's generally between 12 and 15 feet. It varies depending on what the inner row's shading situation is. These are probably going to be very consistent because it's a very flat surface on the bog.
So you're
Probably
talking,
be-
you're
probably
talking
closer to
15
the
feet
12
between
foot.
rows, is that what you're saying?
Pardon me?
15 feet of light between
Right.
rows,
Yeah, that's the space between the back of one row.
in the
and
beginning of another,
Of the next row.
15 feet.
Yeah.
Where does it say that? Do you say that on your drawings anywhere?
It might not be marked on there.
I'd like that if we go forward, with that to be documented on the drawings, please.
So, if I have it-
I'm a little concerned that the front edge of the panels are only 3 feet from the ground. That seems to me to not allow a lot of light underneath that front panel. I see that the back is 8'8", but we've looked at other solar panels, arrays at other cranberry bogs and other areas that are adjacent to cranberry bogs, and the panels themselves seem to be raised higher to allow more light in, just ambient light.
The standard is to have the racks, the panels lean at 25 degrees. So if you raise it up, the back of the thing is going to shade more. So it really doesn't matter how high up or down you put it, because if you raise it up, now you're casting a bigger shadow to the next panel. You're
But that's,
allowing more
yes,
light and lead in,
I
but
understand
less-
that. That's on sunny days. But on overcast days, the ambient light, it spreads more. So the higher you're going to have it in the front, the more light you're going to get to those vines that are right under the front of the panels on non-sunny days. I understand that on sunny days that the shadow is going to be the same regardless of the height, but on overcast or non-sunny days, that there would be more light if these were higher to make the vines more robust?
I can research that. There've been,
I think the gentleman right behind you has the answer.
Josh Farkas with Borrego. So on one of the last pages of the site plan we provided you, it shows the height being 3 feet at the leading or lower edge of those
Right.
those
That's what
racks
we
of
have,
the.
yeah.
Yep. So our standard practice is 30 inches. In this project, we actually are 6 inches higher than normal, in an effort to, not so much to your point about the shading, but in an effort to keep the height of that lowest leading edge above the dike road around the cranberry bog in the event that there was ever flooding.
Massive flood.
A massive flood, exactly. So to keep it up, we actually added 6 inches higher than our standard is for design on these projects.
I think we're going to find out a massive flood in a minute.
But are you talking about your basic 30-inch is for designs for cranberry bog?
Our standard design is 30 inches, whether it's on an upland bog or in an open field.
Well, in an open field, you're not worried about harvesting what's underneath it.
Correct, but there still is grass that grows that needs to be cut and things like that. But we basically added 6 inches in this case to keep flooding in mind, and also the dual use piece plays into that as well. So an extra 6 inches we thought was, to keep the flooding issue
Do you know,
from coming up.
yeah, do you know if this is the dimensions on the paddock bog, which you guys control?
That was not my project.
No, but-
Actually,
I think it was 3 feet.
Richard?
Richard actually permitted that project.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we had 3 feet. Well, I'll double check.
okay.
All right, I mean, it's just the healthier the vines are, the healthier the wetland is. So
Right.
I'm just concerned about that.
One further point. There's actually a program or an incentive available in the Massachusetts SMART program where if you raise these systems up, and maybe you have all heard about this, but if you do a leading edge of 8 feet, so 5 feet higher than what we're proposing, that's an option right now for solar projects in Massachusetts. They're actually highly incentivized. If we were to do that, the system becomes much more visible. It's much more impactful from abutters surrounding it. So we've actually, we had some consideration to do a raised canopy and made the decision not to do that. The landowner's wishes are to have it as low as possible to the ground. So basically, we added 6 inches to try and cover for some of the necessary pieces here.
But environmentally, that higher level is desirable.
Say that again?
Environmentally, that higher level is desirable due to the fact that there's less impact on the environment.
So I'm actually not sure that that's the case, because right as the front edge comes higher, doesn't the back edge come higher as well?
Well,
So therefore,
actually,
the-
then they space them out more. No, UMass has some stock grazing areas.
There have been some projects like that,
Yeah.
correct? Yep. So we are not going for the agricultural adder in the program. That has some different requirements. Our footprint would probably double if we were doing a project like that. Take up twice as much space, be 5 feet higher. So we're trying to go with a, for lack of a better term, standard project, but it's not a standard project because it's in a wetland bog. So therefore, we tried to add what needed to be added without putting a system that was, 8 feet taller than the other ones that you probably see around town. That was the intent there.
Is it all or nothing? Is it 3 feet or 8 feet, or is there any in between you can do?
We certainly could look to raise it higher. We'd be open to that. I know our landowner would prefer not to. I assume those living surrounding the area would prefer lower, but it's an open item if need be.
Okay. Because 3 feet is probably about this high, right? This is a
Yeah.
30-inch desk.
36
so-
inches, yeah.
Okay. I'm more concerned about the light getting underneath that front edge, and not necessarily sunlight, but light. Is what my concern is here. Okay,
I just want the distance between them registered on the drawings, too.
right. What is the plan for construction? I know that on the paddock bog here, the ground was firm enough for them to put down plywood, to bring their heavy equipment in and put the poles and the panels in. What is the plan for this
Same
bog?
thing, we would use mats. If plywood was adequate, we'd do that, but you can have mini equipment to drive the piles. It doesn't require cranes or large excavators. They're basically bobcats with
Yeah, we want something underneath those bobcats beside the ground.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
We didn't walk on the bog. Is it fairly firm?
No.
Yes, it's fairly firm.
It looks like
We were
it
out there,
was.
We were out there last
I
fall.
mean, it didn't look like the
Was
other
it?
one that we looked
Yeah.
at, you know.
Right.
I mean, it wasn't flooded with some of the ones that we've seen.
Yeah.
This array just being sold back into the grid,
Yes, so it'll be interconnected
so
with
this
the,
doesn't benefit the bog as far as the operation of the bog is concerned.
no power will be used on site. Down the road, this project becomes more than likely a community solar project. What that means is there'll be a 50% anchor off-taker of the kilowatt hours that are produced, and then in remaining chunks of 25 kilowatts, that'll be dispersed to other off-takers. So that could be anyone from a private home to a public office or a private office or anything like that.
How many kilowatts is this?
What size of,
How many kilowatts is it?
Yeah.
It's 702 kilowatts DC, which steps down to 500 kilowatts AC.
How many feet between the abutter's property and the solar field?
So we followed the 200-foot setback surrounding. I think we've got this. And that dotted line that surrounds it. So our first parts of the system will be right at that 200 feet. We're not going inside that 200-foot setback in any location.
We were out there today, and the homes on the northwest side, closest to the array, and along that entire property line, actually, are raised. They're up higher than the bog itself. What are your plans to shield or block the view?
Yeah. Basically, we'll have some discussions, both with the abutters and with the planning board, on the whole concept of screening. When there's opening in the vegetation, we're going to plant Leland cypress. The more effective way would be to plant it in the abutters' backyards, closest to the house, because it'd have a greater impact on screening. But it'd be far away enough from the wetlands for it to be a concern of the commission.
Or right along the property line on your side, but on the property line.
Right, on the property line. And
I agree with that.
Typically, that would be Leland cypress that's evergreen and grows very quickly.
Very quickly, yeah.
Okay. All right. That's all.
Well, we're waiting, give us a second, we're gonna have the public jump in a minute here now. Don't worry.
That's all I have.
Yeah. I'm ready to hear what the public
okay,
has.
now those,
I'd like to hear the public side.
yeah, the individuals want to speak from the public side.
When they originally signed
I figured those ones Richard Ray owned.
Go, yes, go ahead, Mark. Sign in if you haven't signed in before.
The other one was Joshua was. I'll give you a spelling. And the other one was, Dean Smith. I think they signed it. I think they did.
Great.
I'm Mark Townsend, 10 Harvest View Way. I think I'm probably one of those houses that you were referring to on the north side. I'm not sure if we're north or south.
Yes, you are.
Yes, you are.
And it seems like it wasn't that long since I was before this committee talking about the same project. I think it was last year, sometime if I'm not mistaken. And I guess the arguments or my thoughts on this are the same now as they probably were then. But just a couple of things before I start. I do want to say I do appreciate the thoughtfulness of trying to keep these panels lower. I think that's a nice thought on behalf of the landowner, and I appreciate that. I do have some concerns, though, and my concerns, as they were before, are mainly for the water quality in the area. I have concerns about contaminants coming from the solar panels and getting into the water supply, especially where it's so close. I think you walked the property, you mentioned you walked the property, that whole side area to the right, looking at the bog from Harvest View, is all a swamp. And if anything leached from these solar panels into that area, it could likely contaminate our wells. All our wells, I think, in the area are very deep, and I have concerns about that. I think clearly the aesthetics of the whole bordering vegetated wetlands are going to be affected as they drive piles and things down into the bog. It's not an upland bog, it's a wetland bog. And I think that's an issue. I wasn't going to really mention the shielding, but I thought that, quite frankly, was more of a planning board issue.
It really is.
Yeah, it is.
It's just more for my edification
But
than anything else.
since you brought it up and you did walk the property, I just want to make it, there was a time when you really couldn't see those bogs from Harvest View Way. When the landowner bought that property, he went around and clear cut. I can't tell you how far back, but a substantial area. If you walked that bog and you saw the sand, the line, that wasn't like that. That only happened once he went in and knocked all the trees down. If he hadn't done that, you wouldn't even see them. So, that was created. That wasn't always that way. But those are my concerns. I think it's clear when you look at the Massachusetts wetlands bylaw that bordering vegetated wetlands are likely to be a significant effect on the private water supply, and I do have concerns there that runoff is going to happen. I have a couple of articles here that I wanted to give to you folks if I can. And I think clearly, just before I don't want to take the whole time here, but if you read the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Bylaw, it's clear that they discourage the placement of, I'm going to try to pronounce this right, photovoltaic systems in wetlands or next to wetlands. They have no problem with uplands, but when it's in a lowland bog, they have issues with that. And I think for a number of reasons, we should decline this. Can I give these?
Yes, go ahead.
Mr. Townsend, I'd like to bring up just one thing I think you'd find this of interest.
Thank you.
The solar array
That's the one.
is 200 feet away from anybody's property. Never mind where the wells are. I don't know where your wells are, but they're obviously within your property. Okay. The health department requires a septic system to be 200 feet away and will accept up to 100 feet away, which I find a lot more toxic than pilings into the ground. But I agree with you as far as the toxicity of the solar panels themselves. But I just wanted you to note that I'd rather have panels there than a septic system.
My concern wasn't with the pilings. That my point with the pilings that it altered the aesthetics of the bordering wetlands. That was my point. When I read through some of the Carver Wetland Protection Bylaw, one of the things they talked about was the aesthetics of the,
Right.
and was my point with the
Okay.
with that. That wasn't
Well,
so
you
much
brought up the poison of the metals, and I just
yeah.
wanted
Well,
you to know
that really, and that was more to the
All right.
the pass outs I gave you. So I guess those are my points.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And come on up.
Just don't.
Just kind of want to mirror what Mark said. It's John Callahan from 14 Harvest View.
Could you sign in, please?
I
Where's
did.
our?
I did.
Oh, okay, thank you.
It got passed
Go right
around.
ahead.
I want to speak to exactly what he said. You know, at one point, I'm the property that is literally right behind that bog.
I see it, yeah.
Yeah. And as Mark said, before the clear cutting that supposedly, they took more trees than they were supposed to or whatever, the natural foliage grows obviously on the edge. We've all got 60-foot pines in our yards down there. You know, so when you've got a set of pines, you know, the property line is right in the middle of, you know, the pines that are on the edge of my landscaped yard. And then I'm gonna go through a bunch of pines that look like a bunch of matchsticks without the canopy on the backside that was all of the foliage before that was clear cut out. And the day after that was done, I used to just have woods behind my house and then I could see the bog. And not that that was bad, that's why I moved here, I like this area. Cranberry bogs are part of life down here. But solar arrays aren't. So I don't think sitting out in my backyard playing a game of baseball, I want to be looking at a solar array down there. And like you said, we're raised up quite a bit. I was involved in the planning aspect of it too. So I was involved in the last meeting to find out what was happening with the, given the variance to move it to 50 feet. And I was told at that, and I don't know that I want to get into this here, but I was told at that if there was some problem with the way you could screen, and it's going to be very difficult to screen, even if it's on the line, unless it's moved way into my yard, you know, to get some form of screening so that I don't see down that way. I was told that it would move from 200 to 600 in some cases, if that were the case. If they couldn't properly screen, you know, they would.
Which isn't,
That
not really
doesn't
us.
have to do with us.
no, it's
No,
not
it
planning.
doesn't.
The
yeah.
problem is that most of what you're bringing up is
It was just a
is
point,
planning
so-
board stuff.
You'd have to go to the planning
Sure,
board with that.
right.
Just through the chair, has this gone, has planning board done anything with this yet at all? Have you shown this to
May-
planning at all?
May 22nd, right? I think they're scheduled for the 22nd
Had
of
an
May.
informal meeting with the planning board yesterday morning, actually, to present the project informally, but May 22nd is the next available date.
Was that an open meeting you had?
It's a regular
yesterday.
planning board meeting.
Huh?
Which one, though, yesterday?
Yeah,
Oh, Stephen holds those all the time, technical review committee meetings.
okay.
So it's
But
just a,
So it's an open meeting?
yeah,
Yeah, because Stephen went with us today on the site, on this site review. We were down there with him today.
Sure, so I guess the only other point I would make is, if it doesn't meet the standards, and we're looking for a variance for this right now, just to even meet the conservation standards, that's what I understand to be correct, is that not correct?
they do need a variance from
They
our.
need a variance
our
from us.
bylaw.
The variance is 65-foot variance from
Right.
us, yes.
All right, so I, as Mark said,
You need a 65.
I don't see a need for it to get further than this.
I gotta
Because
tell
right
you,
now, they're asking for something that's outside of what would be the norm anyways. We've already brought up a lot of points in that aesthetically, it's gonna be awful. And I don't know what draws the line in there, but
The big concern really is how much of your freedom of your neighbor to do what he wants with his land as opposed to what you want to do with your land. And it may be that the panels and array that we put in on off Purchase Street and Great Meadow was satisfied by putting in a 12-foot a dike, basically, and then it had the same trees on top of it. What was that, Richard? Leland cypress, right. And they seem to have done quite well hanging on to it. There's also some small amount of fencing placed to screen it even further. But,
are the same grades at issue and?
no, actually, they're on the exact same grade as the housing is.
Yeah.
And
Big difference.
they are much closer to the housing. They are probably less than 50 feet from the edge of the property there, because that was put in before we had the bylaw in place. And this is something that we're gradually working our way forwards. And it's a big problem, because
Yeah, and I get that, you know, you have to weigh the landowner on both sides, but the increase in property value there is gonna dramatically cause a decrease in property value from the visual I get from, if I were to take somebody out in my backyard right now, Hey, nice, you got a cranberry bog out back. If I try to sell it months from now when there's a solar array back there, I'm not gonna have that same effect. So,
The cranberry bogs are part of the environment of Carver. And a lot of people assume that they're free for them to enjoy physically as well. There was a case down on Meadow Street where we got a complaint about a fellow who was tearing a big opening next to his bog, and he was the bog owner, and we were asked to look into it. Well, he says he's building a house next to his bog. That's why he's clearing the area. Okay, good. Then a little later that year, he flooded his bogs. And that meant draining the pond that he had on the property. And a man came down from the development there and said, "Oh, I was having my grandson come down to go fishing. You shouldn't have drained that pond." You know, really. So we do have to understand
sure.
the trade-off.
Mr. Chairman, I saw a couple of people out there flinching and use the word dike. Could you explain what the mound of,
Yeah, it's a ridge of earth.
It's a large...
It's a ridge of earth with fairly steep sides on both sides, and it's, I believe it was originally intended to be 12 feet high behind the Purchase Street and the Great Meadow Street homes there. And you really don't notice them. I'd suggest that maybe you go and take a look at that and see, this is the type of thing that we may suggest could be done. On the other hand, by taking steps along your property, the back of your property, and putting in the various screening trees, you can then recreate what was there.
Sure.
All of the bogs in Carver have had a lot of cutting around them, partly because they need to get more sunlight in for the berries to grow
That's what it's all
properly.
about.
And
Well, in this case, right behind my house, that wasn't the case.
I think we
No.
get enough.
I mean, the bog road goes dead south. So I don't know what extra sun would be available right on that line, which would be on the backside.
yeah,
Right.
I'll step in.
that's true. But
That was my immediate
southwest,
reaction.
south, and
What
southeast
did that do,
views.
other than cut down?
I think we're into
give me
planning
matchsticks.
board stuff.
Yeah, we want to get
Yeah,
out of this.
yeah,
We're
Well,
not doing the
And
plan.
Mr.
This will all
Chairman,
be
if I might,
happened at the planning board.
me personally, the abutters are upland, and I don't like anything in a wetland area. I don't like solar in a wetland. I don't think we need it. I think that this is only the beginning of, we don't know what the heck is going to happen 5, 10 years from now when all of a sudden groundwater is disrupted, wells have gone bad, and somebody says, geez, who knew? I think the whole thing is too new. I'm all in favor of solar. I'd like it in a dry spot, in an upland location. I just don't like solar in a wetland bog. So that's my 2 cents.
Or residential unless it's on somebody's roof.
Well, we can get into the abutters and I live in a part of town where I'm dealing with abutters too, and everybody has their right to.
Sure.
And at what point is their inconvenience become a monetary amount, or what kind of aggravation? This board, unfortunately, can't look at that. We've got to look at what's the impact environmentally, what's the impact to the conservation. Every one of the arguments from you and Mr. Townsend is certainly welcome at a planning board, and I was just here yelling at these guys a month ago about another project, and I got yelled at by Tim 3 or 4 times that this was all planning stuff. And my answer to that was, well, I don't want to go to planning and be told, geez, you should have said something to conservation.
Sure.
So, it's kind of hard when it becomes these issues, because a lot of what's going on here is conservation and planning. And the two have to kind of work together at it.
You see how he got angry now? Now you got him angry.
I like it. He's
I'm
right
not
on.
angry.
He was sitting out there a month ago.
Promise you, I'm not
He was sitting
angry.
out there a month ago, started this whole thing, and damn it, I'm going to get on the Conservation Commission. And that's what we need, more people to join. Here we
You're
go.
usually the angry
Careful
one.
what you wish for, see?
Tim's usually the angry one on this side.
I've got enough going on the baseball board.
Oh, yeah, we have that.
So about 4 or 5 years ago, we had a large discussion here with people from the DEP, Department of Energy Resources, just a number of state representatives and scientists who spoke about the solar industry and its effect on our life here in Carver. And we may have to have another discussion like that because there's a definite need for increased public awareness of this. For instance, I have to say, the toxic chemicals in solar panels very clearly states problems in the beginning of a solar panel's life and at the end of the life that doesn't affect them on the site.
Yeah.
No, just want to say, they will have all these solar installations have funds set aside for disassembling them and removing the materials and cleaning up the site when it's over with. But it's just that the production of an automobile involves an awful lot of toxic materials. We all have them, though.
Yeah, I think that has to do with it.
Many people are.
If those break, though,
Well,
My concern is that they break or that those
Yeah.
chemicals are there and we only have one shot at a well. If something happens,
Didn't think you would.
lots of things have been found to be toxic
Mm-hmm.
today.
Yeah.
We had no idea were toxic 10, 20, 30 years ago.
True.
We only have one shot at our well.
That's true.
Something gets into that water, it contaminates that well. It's over for us. You know,
Right.
Nothing we can do about it.
Well, I know there's a bog owner in town that used to put arsenic on his bogs when he was a kid. And he said you couldn't see the people that were spreading the arsenic. That's how big the cloud was.
well,
And I was-
let's talk about today and let's get through this here.
That's, we don't know.
Okay.
And I agree with you.
Do we
So-
have anybody else who wants to speak? Oh, here we go.
My name's Chuck Howard. I am not technically in a butter apparently because I haven't been notified yet.
What's
your address?
Where's
your
your
address?
property?
68 Center Street. I
Okay.
have the road that goes into the bogs.
Yeah.
Right next to me there.
Right.
I would have thought that I'd been notified since there's going to be traffic unless the helicopter's bringing stuff in.
Oh, I can see, understand why he'd be,
Huh.
well,
I'm not sure
My
what.
question is also,
Close to the actual array.
what's to stop this from continuing on at a later date with all the bogs? I mean, once that's done, what's...
That was our
we can't look at that. We can't say what if. We have to look at what's presented before us, sir. If we don't act on, we have to look at exactly what's in front of us. If we say, okay, he might do this in 5 years, we might do this in another year, we can't project that because it isn't presented before us. We have to, as a Conservation Commission, look at what is in front of us at the time.
Next to the driveway.
Now, that being said, I understand what you're saying about, once this is in, once this solar system is in, your road is only going to be, that road, what you're worried about extra traffic, is only going to be used for maintenance. I mean,
At my
it's,
bedroom, yeah.
yeah, so it's only maintenance, and they come by, what, a couple times a year. It's nothing until this, I mean, while it's building, it might be a little busy, but after that, it's like a couple times a year, they'll come by to cut the lawn underneath it.
Okay. Power lines are going to be underground, is that what I understand?
Yes.
Until
As
it
these
gets
plans
to
show.
where?
It's gonna
And there's
come out
going to be a
center.
pole erected then, right?
Yeah.
And where will that pole be?
It'll be along the,
Well, the three of them.
come into, it'll run to the line that runs along Center Street, Center Room.
These three poles, four poles?
If I may,
I think it's over
the
here.
driveway that enters down here,
Yeah.
this will be the access. This is your property right here. The poles are gonna be down below this ridge. They're gonna interconnect to, this is the existing pole. These will be the three new ones right here.
It's right next to the house, actually.
We're underground to here. Yep, this is the underground trench. It runs here, riser pole, pull pole, connect to the existing pole. That's down below that grade.
I don't know why he wouldn't be.
Now, is there an environmental ruling as far as wetlands for a vernal pool, which is within 200 feet of where they're going to be putting those power lines?
Do you have a vernal pool?
Notice two butters.
There is a vernal pool there, it's not documented yet.
It's got to be protected.
My daughter's working on it. She
Okay.
just graduated from college. In fact, she's teaching at the high school.
Okay. I'll encourage her to move.
Yeah, we've got
Better get it-
pictures of the turtles and little salamanders.
Oh, yeah, well,
Protected
better get,
things.
better get going on it then.
Yeah.
Because this plan is going to be proceeding, sir, so you gotta, if she's working on it, then she's going to have to present some proof.
I would think the conservation people would be more interested in that, but
We are, sir, but
But
we
we are,
can't.
Yeah.
You maybe don't understand. We can't even go onto somebody's property and tell him he's got a vernal pool and he's got to do this and so. He has to
this is on
ask.
the property of the gentleman we're talking about. This is his
Yeah,
property.
but he can't invite us on, we cannot go on it without his permission.
I understand.
And we can't certify it without his permission.
And we certainly can't just wander around it till
I
we
got it,
find
yeah.
something either, I mean, fair is fair.
To your question about wildlife, we have a letter from the Fish and Game Department basically stating it's not a protected wildlife area.
And we also know that it's not even recognized as being a vernal pool.
It's not,
It is not.
not a certified one, probably.
Okay. I will work on that.
So,
Another question about cranberries, if I could ask. The bogs have been improved tremendously over the last 10, 15 years. I mean, this house has been in my family for probably over 40 now.
Certified apprentice list.
I don't really understand the concept of selling a vine every 2 years, harvesting it every 2 years, because now it's shaded and there's not enough sugar in the berries. So if you take away the sun, the vines are going to grow slower or faster.
no,
I don't
actually,
understand
the
the
vines will
concept.
probably grow at about the same rate of
Without
speed.
sun?
Yes, without that much sun. It's the berry crop that needs this large amount of sun.
Yeah, it won't work.
To produce.
Berries aren't gonna work.
And the fact is that the fact that the vines will be harvested will enable it to stay in productive wetland status. If they couldn't continue to harvest the vines, then it would possibly have to be reverted to non-productive status, and
Pastor Soto has to be
Yeah.
removed.
That's it. I'm good.
okay. Any other questions? This gentleman?
Lou Spencer, I'm on 80 Center Street, I own Lot A, 2 and Lot 2A.
Okay, if you'd sign in, sir, on the...
I'm already signed
You're
in.
on sign, okay.
What's your name, sir? I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Louis Spencer,
Right, okay.
I'm on 2 and 2A
Yep.
on my lots. Just a couple quick questions. Last year when we came here, there was some discussion about, there was a reserve that had to be put aside in case there is contamination, and who would be responsible for that? Would that be the property owner, or would that be the company that's putting in the solar system?
I'm not familiar with that at all.
Well, it's
The bond,
the bond that would cover, but
Oh.
the bond that would cover any,
Okay, the bond, it's a cleanup bond.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah,
it'll take care of
That's
it.
right,
From the
that's the
planning
solar
board, right?
company.
okay. So the solar company would be liable if there were any
Yes.
type
Does
of
that come from the
contamination?
planning board?
I would not even, Mr. Chairman, I don't think we should even answer that question, because that's, number one is, we're not 100% sure. And number two is, it has nothing to do with the wetlands.
Right, that's a
Yes.
planning board.
So that's a planning board
Is that
question.
a planning board? Okay.
I
Yeah.
really don't think we should
We
officially
won't
answer that
because we might
question.
not answer it right now.
I
No, no.
recall that conversation, and I believe it was at this meeting
Oh,
here.
was it? Oh.
Yeah, but
Well, the planning
I don't
board
remember if we ever got a clarification answer to it, that's
Oh,
why
I think somebody did ask about that, and then I think we said what happened with Mr. Paddock's bog. and
Yes.
I can't remember exactly what,
Well,
but
we
then we
shouldn't even
found
go
out, I
there.
think there was a bond with his, or
Yeah.
something like that, but that would have come from
Yeah.
planning board?
So, question number 2 is, those vines are going to be trimmed and sold every year. Who's responsible to ensure that they do what they say they do?
Well,
If
that,
if-
again, is
if it
not
was in
our
order of condition.
responsibility.
Well,
no, it is. It gets
Well,
put into our
it's-
order of conditions.
Well, we could put it into our order of conditions.
Right.
He's asking who's going to enforce it.
We could perhaps
Is that what you're
request-
asking, right, sir?
Yeah,
You
we
wanna
could-
know who's going to enforce it.
could
If
request
I
on-
heard you and I thought I heard you pretty clearly, that if they don't do that, then it would have to revert back. So we have a regulation or a mandate, someone needs to be responsible for enforcing that and making sure that as taxpayers in this town, that we're informed that if in fact they're not compliant, who would ensure compliance?
It could be us, but I doubt
put it
it.
as a condition.
It could be the assessor's office, actually, because they are the ones who would reap the benefit of the property going out of Chapter 61A status. The other thing is, it might be the Ag Commission that would then we could hand that to them. And, their responsibility to police this, like they do chicken farmers and other people that keep livestock in town and so on. Carver is a agricultural community and right to farm, et cetera.
Great question, because there's 5 bogs there. So, of course, if they're maintaining those, if they just let the vines on that one go, is anyone ever really gonna know that?
Well, I think,
Especially if he's still operating the rest of the bog.
Yeah. Well,
And if you're approving it, because he's saying that he's gonna harvest the vine, which is why Mr. Paddock was allowed, then, a condition from the commission might be, we need to get reports that he's harvesting the vine. Certain,
quarterly
certain-
reports.
no, every 2
however-
years. When
however
he's
often they
harvesting,
do
every
it.
2 years, he has to document that he's harvesting it.
Yeah, either every 2 years or every
No, it's
year,
every-
if
you
he
can only
cuts it in
harvest
half,
every
right?
2
Or
years.
they can do half and
I
half.
thought you said if
Well,
you
yeah,
did half and half.
I don't think they're
So-
gonna wanna do that.
So,
They're talking about every 2
I
years.
said I had 2, but give me one more. So if the berries don't produce enough revenues for it to be worth them producing it, and I'm all for, do what you gotta do with your land, and
Buck,
you
yeah.
have a right to earn a living.
Right.
Why would the vines have any more value?
The vine, sorry.
It's not that the vines have more value, but the vines have some value, but in combination with the value of the power that they're going to generate, it would be more profitable to get the power and the vines than the berries themselves, is my feeling. Is that correct?
The vines legitimatize it as agricultural property.
They keep it under agriculture.
The next one goes next to.
So, okay.
These are things that we're in the process of working through. It took 4.5 years for the paddock bog to get approved, and even there, they're still having some difficulties.
So
We have- Sorry.
my biggest takeaway that I hope we all take away is that ultimately, yeah, I'd like to do what I like to do with my property and be respectful of my neighbors. But if I'm going to do that, and I come to you and you're going to grant me the opportunity to go ahead and move forward with it, and there's a requirement for compliance, someone in this town has to maintain that compliance and show us that, in fact, they are compliant. So I should be able to come down here to
Look at
someone's
records.
office and say, you approve this, and you assured us, prove it to us. There has to be a performance measure here.
I agree.
So if we say we're going to do it, we have to show it. That's, so,
So this is something that we really haven't thought about until now, but as more of this happens, we're going to
yeah.
have to.
It would be something that we would probably,
I'm not sure we would be licensed,
or at least try to get the proof that they're
I
doing it.
think possibly the Ag Commission would be the ones, because they keep the records of the farms and so on and so forth. So
Yep.
I think that might be the whole thing, between them and the assessors, because if the property does not stay in agricultural status, of course, then they have to pay 5 years of back taxes back, and they,
yeah, there are some taxable benefits
Yes.
that are being read to also.
but the biggest thing is, the reason why we want to try and keep it in agricultural use, so much of Carver, because of the fact that otherwise it's going to get built on. And that means maybe another 2 new schools.
All right, thank you.
I have,
Mr. Chairman, may I, 1 second,
go right ahead.
Tim? Just so you know, Mr. Howard, you were on the list. You should have received. We don't have you in the cards. We don't have you in the one that was returned. and we don't have a signature, but we have you on the mailing list.
So,
So, one should have gone to you that did not. I don't know what that affects here, but just so you know,
that's good.
That you did,
it was provided to us on the list, but it somehow never made it into the actual mail. Well, unless we're missing a card.
Is the address correct?
The address is
Yep.
correct.
I got notified by neighbors
Yeah,
a little bit ago.
it's right here, 68 Center Street.
I was concerned about it.
Yeah. You have, Jim and I said the same thing. We didn't know why, because you're right there.
Yeah.
So you should certainly, that's what we've been digging for all this time. So you were here. Apparently, this one fell through the cracks. I'm sorry?
Were plans sent out?
No, the
No, no.
plans don't get sent
Just
out,
not-
Plans weren't, just the
just a
certified letter
notification of the
notice.
public hearing, that's what
Yeah.
you would have gotten.
but,
Public hearing. We received that notice a few weeks ago, it was very vague, 0 Center Street, didn't mention 72. We figured out what it was, we were here just a few months ago. Other people new in the neighborhood may not have known what that was. But I know last time, which was only a few months ago, so I don't think much has changed. We also received the certified letter regarding tonight's hearing, but that was not, because we were aware of it, we checked the thing. I know I spoke to some other neighbors and told them when it was, but why weren't we notified of 100-foot butters? Why weren't we notified of this, of the hearing tonight? Because there may be a few other people that may have been here this evening.
Oh, I think they got the generic notice,
We were
as
notified
opposed,
that 0 Center Street had a proposed solar project, but in the past, you're also notified the date of the hearing, and we were not notified of that.
but maybe when you sent them out, you may not have known the date of the hearing?
now, yeah, who sent these out? Richard was here for?
I came down to town hall because I billed the other day to do so.
I sent the public hearing notice.
The
Richard, did
notifications,
Prime do this, notify?
we're the ones who are responsible for notifying abutters, and if one abutter didn't get a notification and he's an abutter, you know, that's an error on our
He's
part.
absolutely telling the truth, because we don't have a card.
And,
We don't have anything other than.
Right, it's
He's
not
on the
one of those
list,
white,
He's on the list, but he just didn't get a, yeah,
Right.
he didn't
on the
get a.
white, on the
Nope.
white slips.
No.
Yeah, so that's an error on our part. The notice does not require to tell the date of the hearing, just notifies them that there will be a hearing, because typically we don't know when the hearing is, so.
They sent out the generic,
Yeah, if we know ahead of time when the hearings are going to be, then we tell you when the hearing is, but when we're sending out the notice, if we don't know when the hearing is going to be, we can't tell you when the hearing is because we don't know what it is. And there's no requirement,
Well, actually, by
there's
the-
no requirement for doing that.
The legal notice that goes in the paper does give the date of the hearing. And I believe actually that letter should not go out until that date is known and the notice is in the paper. That still gives you 2 weeks for that letter to get to the people's houses. And I think that letter should be the same information on it as, so I think that we're running into a little poor performance on that.
Could I make one point,
Yes.
Mr. Chairman? To Mr. Howard's point, no, obviously, copies of plans were not sent out,
Well, we don't send out the plans.
It's
sir.
not,
we never do that.
but I have a copy of the plans, and the reason I got it was because on the initial notice, it did give Prime's information, where you could call and get a copy of the
Uh-huh.
plans.
That's up to them, yeah.
Mr. Howard didn't have the opportunity to get those plans, because he never got the notice. That's-
right, well, that's true. And I'm sorry about that. It shouldn't have happened. And,
Well,
Yeah.
I'm,
Yeah.
are you done? I'm just.
Yeah, go ahead.
Jim, Mr. Chairman, I'm looking at the drawings and I'm trying to figure out what the wetlands are and what the wetlands aren't. I'm looking through here and
They're all,
I see some over here, but I don't see, on the south side, I don't see any wetland line.
well, okay, see
I
that,
show, we
Well, the reason I'm asking for
Yeah.
that, Jim, because after that, I want, see, there's a lot of things missing, like, I'd like to see on these drawings where their initial agreement as to what type of vegetation's gonna be put up on their property for a blind, whether they're gonna have a dike or not. I mean, this is a very plain plan. There's nothing here showing me
This
or
is a
these
plan for the
or the people.
conservation.
But that would come after planning,
Yeah,
the
but-
screening stuff.
I don't see 100 foot here. I'm looking at this, I don't know, is this upper, is that upper one, is that a dry or a wet one? The one at the top?
There's a
What's
swamp.
this? Wet? Where's the,
We see the 100-foot here from the
yeah, but where's this one?
BVW, but this, all the bogs are a wetland. Where is the 100-foot delineation around the bogs?
That's what I want to
So
see.
bogs are a wetland as well.
We could do that.
Yeah.
So this is,
overlap in this case, so
this is, he's going the 100 foot from the real swamp, which is right here.
Well, it'll be 100 foot
Right,
off of
but-
this
but-
too, right?
It's got one
But
line.
down here,
here.
100
but down
foot
here where the
perimeter
poles are
from the
going in
wetland.
next to
Yeah.
Mr. Howard's house, that's
Yeah,
100
yeah,
feet from
yeah,
these
yeah.
bogs.
Yeah, right, the bogs are the
So,
wetlands also, right?
These drawings are incomplete.
We don't show anything that we need. I'm looking
Yeah.
at this, I just
And,
don't
right,
see
and
it.
the,
It shows the 100 foot.
No, it
Yeah, it
shows it
shows-
from here, but it doesn't have any 100-foot around the
There's nothing
bogs.
up here.
which are
No.
wetlands too.
There's nothing up here. This is all, the bogs are wetlands, it
yeah.
should be
Right,
100
oh, I
foot.
see.
These poles here
these
that
maps
Mr.
are gonna have
Howard
to
is
be
talking about
resubmitted.
are within 100 feet
with,
of this bog.
and you know that
there's
you're
no
required to have,
You're right, there is. He's only showing.
Richard, you know you're required to have colored lines in Carver now.
He's trying to get away with it.
Blue is the wetland line, so then we have,
That's what I'm saying.
was it red for the 65-foot and green for 100 from that wetland line. So that's a requirement, actually. The three color markings on the map.
Yes, but also, there's no
Yeah.
100-foot line
Yeah, well,
around the bogs.
that's exactly
Or
true.
65.
So these maps are, the maps really are not
And,
acceptable.
and if that is within 100 feet, then it's up to us to find out what kind of,
Everything.
what kind of protection are these people are
Probably
gonna
wouldn't be.
have.
This is 200 feet.
Yeah, so.
100 feet splitting
Well,
it.
where's the wetlands? Is it here or is it here? We don't know where it is.
That's actually this, I believe. It's
Well, you think it
delineation.
might, but there's
Right.
nothing
Yeah.
here. Who knows?
Kind of annoyed.
I mean, everything.
Could you
buffer
get
zone
this
would
thing
be-
straightened out for May 2nd? Could you
Yes.
get these plans redrawn the way that the board would like to have them
May
done?
2nd.
Absolutely.
Hold on,
Could we put this off till May 2nd?
hold on.
Continue this?
We can continue it if we,
I've got a nephew graduating.
We can ask him not to.
Yeah, I could do that. Tell him, hey, put it off till next
Are his
week.
grades good?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kid's crazy, he's joined the,
You gonna write him a check?
no.
Well, then, you can
all
be
right,
it.
so,
I just paid
Due to the-
$600 for a brake job on his car.
large number of questions that
Yeah.
are,
I'd like to see this
Involved.
continued.
I think that we should continue this. It's,
Only because I don't believe the board's ready to vote on
I can't
this.
vote on this,
Yeah.
it doesn't
No,
have,
so-
it doesn't have.
we, you know, it's,
The
we
DBW,
we were
right?
looking at the property today, and that did struck my eye, that the wetland lines are not marked properly on it, and so we'll,
Well,
We'll
gonna have to
we'll revise the plans.
it's that,
The-
and,
So the
and I
whole,
want to
do you have
see,
a copy of the Carver wetland
Yes.
regulations? Okay, that specifies those markings.
Right.
Read it, follow it.
Yeah,
Would you
okay.
like a motion,
Can I,
Mr.
can I at least address some of the points brought up by the abutters? I know most of it was aesthetics and screening and views, but there was misinformation that contaminants leach off the panels. They're glass
I know,
panels.
I know.
So they don't leach any chemicals. There are no liquid chemicals inside, so
they're
if the
thinking about,
glass
they're
breaks,
thinking about the steel being driven into the ground.
No.
No,
it's
then-
galvanized steel, and that's
Okay.
done all over town, and there's never been any problem with that. The transformers have a liquid in them, but they're biodegradable
At
mineral
that
oils.
hearing that we had a number of years ago, it was brought to mind that the only thing dangerous about a solar array is the inverter. And you have to be within 3 feet of that inverter to even begin to feel any effects of it. You'd have to sit on it, basically, in order to have any damage done. And so it's, the panels themselves are produced from hazardous materials, and when they are scrapped, they do produce hazardous materials, but none of that will occur here.
Right.
The breaking of the panels has no impact on.
No, if a panel breaks, it's solid. It'd be as if you broke your phone. Your phone has a lot of hazardous material in it, but it doesn't spill on your hands and absorb into your skin. It's just solid metals.
The storm we just had, if a branch hits something, it breaks and it leaches.
No, it doesn't.
perhaps the people from Borrego can catch, do you have any,
Let me add
yes?
Yeah,
to that.
we'd appreciate it.
Well, if I may, point of order, Mr. Chairman, we're going to continue this anyway. We have other business tonight. Are we going to continue this on?
No, let's-
While we already know we're going to do a
Let's just
continuation
finish
anyway?
this one statement.
While the abutters are here, let the gentleman from
I'm sure
Borrego.
they'll
Just
be
to
back.
answer the question about the hazardous
quickly,
materials, these are sealed modules, and there has been extensive testing of crushed modules for leaching, and the materials do not leach out of the crushed module itself. And we can provide those reports to the Conservation Commission. We can provide the safety data
I'd
sheets
bring that next time, for sure.
on the equipment.
Yeah.
So we'll make sure that we provide those in the meantime.
Okay.
But there have been leach testing done on these types of solid PV modules, and they don't leach. In most cases, they're even considered to be safe for disposal in landfill. But from what we understand, at the time of decommissioning of these systems, there's going to be a much larger volume of this type of material, and there are salvageable materials in the modules. So once there's an economically feasible volume of material to recycle, these will be recycled at end of life. And Europe is a little bit further ahead than the United States, and they actually are implementing that in Europe. So they've gotten to the stage where they are starting to recycle those materials. So there are all kinds of salvageable materials in this. If a module gets damaged on one of our sites, there's a data acquisition system that's monitoring the operation of the system continuously. We have an operations center in our office where they have visuals, they have data reporting on all of the systems. So there would be an alert, and those modules would be replaced very shortly after that because it impacts the productivity of the system.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're going to continue, I hope.
Yes.
Okay?
All right, I'll make a motion
There we go.
that we continue the hearing for 0 Center Street, DEP SE 126-561 until May 2nd.
I'll second that.
Okay. Been moved and seconded to continue this hearing until May 2nd. Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. You will not get another announcement of this.
7 p.m.
This, okay.
meeting for Concom.
Not from us.
No?
But if the, gentlemen, if you could bring in a number, maybe several extra sets of plans next time to provide to the neighbors, we'd like that. And
It would be nice if we had them ahead of the hearing, so we had an
Well,
opportunity to...
that's not up to us, sir.
perhaps they could bring them into the Concom, get them to the Concom, Mark. We'll just, and see.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Now, you all saw how easy it was tonight, so you're more than welcome to join the commission.
Now they'll never join. I never joined.
I won't give up
Sonnet.
on you. Come on.
I'd be like, I ain't joining that commission.
Taking a break.
Good night.
Bye, thank you.
I want to join the commission.
Hey, you want to join the?
Last week, we were done in 20 minutes.
You don't look. Oh, darn. Thank you, Rich. Huh?
He should know better than to bring us plans without the colors on, so pretty annoying.
It's not like they haven't filed with us before. And you know what? I have to say, I had to look back at my emails, but I think I emailed the public hearing notice to the other guy, Evan Watson, and told him that that's what needs to be sent to the abutters, because that's what we usually do.
Yeah.
I didn't say anything, but because I know, because Rich, Evan wasn't here, but I swear I did that. Because that's typically what we do. Peg up, Peg always used to yell at me for that.
The whole night, so I can introduce myself to the board after the
Okay.
All right, let's make this one quickly.
Well, you can clean out a room, Tim.
What everybody else?
You ask for volunteers, they all leave.
I know, they're never going to want to join now.
At this point, we will
We showed them how easy it
open the
was.
hearing for Lot 4B, Wenham Road, DEP 126 where's the rest of the number?
We got a new one. 562. We got it today.
Okay,
I didn't have it when I did that, but I wrote the order for it.
so, Notice is hereby given in accordance with the Mass Wetlands Protection Act, Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw, that a public hearing will be held at 7:30 PM on Wednesday, April 18th, 2018, and in Meeting Room 1 at the Carver Town Hall. Did you get a copy of this? Well, no.
This is
I want to give you the old one.
At the Carver Town Hall to hear the notice of intent submitted by the applicant, JLK Realty and Development LLC, for the proposed construction of a single-family dwelling with associated driveway, septic system, grading, and utilities within the 100-foot buffer to a bordering vegetated wetland.
I had to give him my pen.
Thanks.
This is yours.
Yeah, okay.
It's all set.
Well, I did
I had to run
again.
out to my truck to get it, though.
Colors on here, that's good.
There's colors on this?
There are some colors, very thin.
So I'm way up top.
We have to try, maybe we're gonna have to try and send out a notice saying, like, they have to be quarter-inch wide color lines.
Oh, I know, yeah, because it comes, you really can't
Yeah.
see them, I know.
This is nice.
Well, it's better.
It is, makes it easy.
Okay,
No, you can
I have to
see it.
finish the
Look at
reading.
what I'm saying.
Okay, for the proposed construction of single-family dwelling with associated driveway, septic system, grading, and utilities within the 100-foot buffer to a bordering vegetated wetland. Proposed well is within the 65-foot buffer, protected under the Carver Wetlands Protection Bylaw, and will require a variance under the bylaw. The project is located at Lot 4B, Wenham Road, Carver, Mass., map 107. Lot is part of Lot 1-4. All interested parties are invited to attend. Proceed.
See how many people in the audience are just sick and tired of hearing it?
No Cirky today? No.
No, he couldn't make it.
You got lucky.
You're in trouble, huh?
I saw him today, he said he couldn't make it.
What a
Yeah.
shame.
He was so sad.
My name is Bob Forbes from Zenith Consulting Engineers. I'm a professional engineer in the state of Massachusetts. You may recall Mr. Jermaine wasn't on the commission at that time, but the remaining three members were here. I believe I was here just about 2 months ago on this
I
thing.
think was it January? Was it January?
Well, I wasn't working for Zenith in January.
Yeah,
It was the third day I was working for Zenith.
Oh, I thought you
It
were
was
here before.
February
Oh, okay.
19th or something. It was right
February.
around 2 months
It was
ago.
February, okay.
Okay.
So, as you know, we got denied for our order.
Twice.
What I wanted to do, the chairman made an excellent suggestion during that meeting to try to look at reconfiguring lot lines with the abutting property, which fortunately the owner of this property still has control over. So we did do that, and we were able to make some, what we think are improvements to the plan. So what I did is I mounted the two plans just to show you, I think it would be easiest to show you the differences in the two plans. And on this side is the one that we had proposed 2 months ago, and on this side is the one that's before you now. Okay, so to get you oriented, Wenham Road is out here.
Yeah, we got it.
The wetlands line is in blue on both, same colors on both plans. 65-foot buffer zone in pink, red. 100-foot buffer zone in yellow. So what was proposed last time, there was some lawn, lawn area within the 65-foot buffer zone. The proposed house was right up against that 65-foot buffer zone. And the entire house itself was in that, between the 65 and 100. And most of the driveway, the paved driveway, was within that between 65 and 100-foot buffer zone. So when we were able to reconfigure the lot lines, we were able to push the house out more, and now you'll see that there's nothing at all proposed in the 65-foot setback. A portion less than half of the house is even within the 100-foot buffer.
Right.
And essentially all of the driveway, the paved driveway, you see a little tiny corner, but essentially it's about 98%, 99% is outside the 100-foot buffer. So we just, and also just to, for Mr. Jermaine's purposes, we do still, the well is still going to be required to be the temporary disturbance that we show. So I don't want to not talk about that at this hearing. We did narrow the width. Mr. Emerson felt like he could get down there with a narrower width to the temporary disturbance area. And we are still proposing for the erosion control system. Brooke made the excellent suggestion to have double staked hay bales, and that's shown on the plan, I believe, in the detail for the erosion control barrier.
I don't see it.
Right here, the detail.
Double stake, yeah. It almost like a single stake.
So-
I think when, at the last meeting, I think I was an audience participant,
Yes.
the well line went a couple of different directions. It was going to run over onto the other side, and then I think the chairman suggested we don't do that, so
You can see the line now. It's
you guys are keeping the water line on that property and as close to the lot line as you can? Is that what you're planning on doing?
Yes. Yes.
So it's minimum disturbance?
Yep.
Yeah, and it'll be temporary, and immediately upon that well being installed,
Right.
we will loam and seed and get that thing
Yeah, I remember
vegetated
that
again.
being discussed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're going to bring it out like this, am I correct?
Yeah, and just go in between.
Yeah,
Over
That
in
is.
here?
looks good.
No, it's this map that we, today shows your planned location for the well line.
Correct.
Yeah.
I can turn it around now.
Yeah.
Now that I've gone through that, this is the
Right.
plan that,
So the
that
well's
was just
still in there.
a snippet of
Still
this.
in
Now
there.
this is the plan that's
So
in
we can
front of
sneak
you.
around here, but
Yeah.
before it was
Right.
kind of, it was a much
Before they
wider,
move the lot line.
yeah, it was a wider swath that he was gonna cut and stuff.
Beat this one to death, man.
So the water line's still taking a straight shot, which makes the most amount of sense,
Exactly.
with the least amount of disruption.
That's what we intended, yes.
Yeah, that's what he had said that's what I thought I heard him say.
Yeah, it's all on the drawings. It looks good.
Yeah.
The only thing I'd like to add, or you go ahead and do it.
Good.
All right, well, first of all, this is I believe, a great solution.
Thank you.
You know, and it was something we had talked about, changing the lot line,
good.
kind of previously. And I drive by there a lot, so I saw it and I realized that, the lot next door was pretty open.
Yeah.
It's almost all lawn and
Right.
What my concern is, and it really doesn't affect the approval of the structure, is the protection of the 65-foot no-touch zone going down that hill. And this may be something that we can take care of in the order of conditions. I see that this is for a proposed three-bedroom house, so that tells me that this is most likely built for a family.
Family.
It certainly could. Yeah, it certainly could be. Yeah.
And you know how children are. They explore. They, if a ball is at the top of a hill and it rolls down, they're either going to forget about it or they're going to run down and get it and think that it was fun, and then they're going to do it over and over and over again. And my concern, and I think I share this with other members of the board, is to protect the wetlands as much as we can, and that includes the trees there, but also the undercover. So I don't know if there was any kind of. I think one thing we're going to definitely ask you to do is put in the wetlands delineation signs.
Oh, they're actually shown on, I'm sorry, I should have
I already-
mentioned that.
I'm gonna talk to Jamie about that.
Yeah, they are shown
Posts.
on the plan.
Okay.
Right at the 65-foot,
Yeah.
Okay.
and
What about running coil razor wire?
we have no problem with that regardless, if that is a
Electric
condition.
fence. How about electric fence?
Why don't we
sorry?
just run some coil razor wire? I don't.
Put a guy shack down the
Or
other
electric
end.
fence? Give those kids a little zap
It
before
would
they
take care, the razor wire would take
been here
take care of the balls.
rough.
keep them out of the way.
So we've
deflate
got
the ball.
Electric
signs, I mean,
fence, like for
Well,
horses.
Very nice.
We don't have any problem with that. It is intended, we were intending on the placards being
Yeah.
mounted at the 65-foot.
I did put that as
Yeah.
a condition.
Okay, fine. At your previous plan, when Mr. Cirque was here, he, at one point, sort of in conjunction with what we were looking for, came up with a plan of sort of inspections after the fact to make sure that the wetlands had been protected. And while it was a great idea when the house was too close, I still think it's a good idea now for some way for the members of the board to make sure that the bottom of that hill doesn't become a playground, and that the flora along the embankment remains as healthy as it can be.
We have absolutely no objection to that. In fact, we would welcome that.
Okay.
I'll
I
have
think,
you, I
maybe
kind of
we-
started to write up a little condition about that, so I'll have you take a look at it. And if they're fine with that, then we can, I'll
right.
have you see what you want.
You want to note that on the placards?
No.
Just asking.
No, I think that
Okay.
this is something that maybe can be written into either the rental agreement, if that's the way Mr. Emerson's going to go, or a deed if he sells
Yeah,
it.
certainly any language, it's not my cup of tea. I would have to send that to Mr. Cirque.
Right,
and I'm
I
s-
know,
He
and-
he offered it, so I'm saying that he's not going to have a problem with it this
So I did go back and I
time
looked at
around.
Rich's stuff, and he had previously had like a covenant,
Right.
which said something about us being able to look at the erosion
still want the
controls.
covenant.
So I thought maybe that something like that could be maybe a covenant that would
Yeah.
go with the deed and go with,
Why not?
so that anybody who buys
Right,
it.
and maybe it's something that we ask Mr. Cirque to
Right,
look at.
that's what I kind of figured, yeah.
But along with the erosion controls,
Yeah.
which I think are important, it's also the
No, but this is for afterwards, yeah.
right, child
yeah.
control.
Right.
Or if that's the case, or just, not letting whoever ends up inhabiting this house be
Yeah.
able to utilize this wetlands
Yeah.
as part of their
Toboggan
everyday
run.
living.
Toboggan run in the winter.
Toboggan run in the winter, or,
Be a great
Yeah.
dump.
I think
know,
it's called
throwing-
birth control.
Well, right. And
Condition.
there was something else that I wanted to.
You're getting distracted.
Got distracted. There was something else that I wanted to put in.
Wade Street, the end of
I
Wade
think you
Street, that
wanted
neighbors were doing.
like a 5-year period, and it was going to be an unannounced inspection.
Into our land.
Right, we talked about it
Well,
being,
that's in the covenant.
that would be in the covenant
That's the
as
covenant,
being
so we're
more or
covered
less
with that.
unannounced. I think Mr. Cirque's original was that it would be set as a
Yeah.
particular date, which kind of allows people to
Clean everything up.
clean everything up and
Yeah.
then go back to life as usual.
Yeah.
If there was damage to the wetlands, it
Yeah.
would be pretty
We
tough
would
to
know,
clean up.
yes. Yes, you
Yeah.
are right about that. And the other thing, does anybody else have anything? Because I lost my train of thought. There was one more thing I wanted to bring up.
I know we had talked about a couple of things. And we had the-
That's what happens when you get old.
I know.
the well part.
Tell me about it.
And there was going to be, even the septic systems
Yeah.
beyond the
And septic's all
65,
approved and
the
everything. You
septic's
got your
all
Board of
set.
Health
Halfway in.
approval and
It's
this?
fine.
I don't believe so, and I don't know for certain.
Oh, okay.
I don't
I
believe
think I
so.
asked Kevin, I
It
don't know,
may be.
maybe not
The
approval,
septic
but
may
I think
be-
they've submitted the application or something. anyway.
Yeah, Mr. Emerson asked us to try to get this process
yeah.
done first before we went through with all the other
Right,
things.
okay.
I would like a COC prior to the building being a final building inspection.
Prior to the
Yeah,
occupancy
for
permit?
the prior to the occupancy.
Well,
No, wait,
I think that contradicts.
That way we don't, well, we haven't in the past, and what happens is we're running into houses now, people don't do that. So, and we don't get it, and then they go to sell a house, we gotta go running over there right away to get a COC
Right,
check.
right, that's true.
By having them, from now on, by having the requirement that a COC be issued prior to the occupancy of the house, we don't have to worry about it. We get to look at it, say it's fine,
Yeah,
and then they don't call us when these people go to sell a house
right.
and require a COC.
Unless, what if they're just renting though? How does that work if they're just renting?
Even
I'm
if
not,
they're renting.
yeah, that,
Even
again,
if it's renting,
Still
it
need a-
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
that
Oh, you're right, it'd
seems,
still be an occupancy.
You still need you need an occupancy permit, doesn't matter. So
Yeah.
if we require a COC, then we don't have to worry about running out there on a Thursday afternoon and checking it right away because they got a closing on Friday, yada, yada, yada.
Well, Jamie's usually pretty good about getting to COCs because he
Yeah.
likes to close stuff out.
But I'm just thinking that you
so he
put
doesn't
that
run
into
that.
the, that into the notes, I'm sorry.
That's fine. I don't want to interrupt you.
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Go.
The only question I have about that is if the covenant is that we come up with is outside the COC.
I
Because
actually-
once we're
I'll
done
let
with
you
it,
read
once
it.
we approve
Yep.
the COC, we're basically done.
I actually said that.
And now we, we have to be able to
Right.
continue these inspections after the people have moved in. So,
You could still have a COC and do the inspections,
but the,
because then it'd be a violation.
What did I say?
No, once we release the COC, we no longer have jurisdiction.
I understand that, unless there's a violation into the wetlands, then we do have jurisdiction.
Okay, so what I did in that
Yeah.
case, what I did
I don't
was I
think
wrote up a
Concom
condition
does.
that said about doing the inspections and covenant and that, and then I said, the issuance of certificate of compliance does not relieve the applicant or his successor from complying with condition 5, which is the one.
Right.
all right.
That sounds
So
good.
that's kind of how I address it. I
That
mean,
works
maybe
beautiful.
Rich
Yep,
might want to
all
look
right.
at that
Yeah.
and see, make sure it's
Yeah,
legal.
exactly. It sounds
But,
perfectly
yeah.
okay to me, but I would
I know, me
defer
too.
to him.
They violate it.
Right.
What's,
And that makes sense.
We can
Oh,
see
you
the
can-
building, just have, we only add
enforcement
another
order.
30,000.
Oh, or you-
Excuse me?
Yeah.
So we can see the building,
You can do
tell them we only add another
They're
30,000.
not.
Enforcement order involves a
He'll have a
a
stroke.
fine if they don't clean up within a certain amount of time. It can be
Yeah,
a...
no, if they're not complying with the order, they can,
it's not just a slap in the
Oh,
wrist.
no,
I mean, this
no,
can be-
definitely not.
Yep.
We've stopped work on building projects.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it's all about, right?
Right.
the enforcement.
That's why I was asking, I didn't know what.
Yeah.
Enforcement orders are amazing things.
Yeah, so I'll take Rich, maybe take a look at this, just to make sure that, I mean, I think it'll be fine with him, as far as the covenant.
Yeah,
goes,
it
yeah.
seems to me like that's a perfectly logical approach, and
we're not lawyers.
and he suggested a lot of those
Yeah,
things, so
right, he
I'm
did in the
sure
last
he's not, he might tweak a word or
Yeah.
two, but I don't think he's
Right.
going to have any problem with it.
Okay, that's what I figured.
So are we ready then to,
I think so, yeah.
Okay.
And then meanwhile, I can have,
I can't remember the last thing I wanted to bring
Oh.
up. Killing me.
hey, we better continue.
Well, we'll leave a
No,
hole
I
in
don't
the,
mind.
we'll leave a little hole in the order of conditions, you can handwrite it.
No, it wasn't,
For
it
about
was,
6 months, and then if you remember.
We'll
Well,
have,
he'll be on his way
I'll
home.
remember in the car.
Yeah, that's what's gonna happen, he's gonna
Just
be
call
on
me,
his way
call me, I'll
home.
put it in.
No, it wasn't, it was along the lines of the protection of the 65-foot, of the wetlands itself.
No toboggan runs, as well.
No, it was,
No swing sets in the wetlands.
Could you picture a swing set?
No fun.
I actually said, I think I put that in here.
Could you picture a swing set
She
from
had
up
swings, yeah, well, you know how they, all those plastic toys.
all right,
Fisher Price.
there? Right,
anyway.
we're getting
It's not that
goofy
I don't
here.
like kids, but,
All right, let's,
so we move to close the hearing?
I think so.
I'm waiting for,
I'll make a motion, we close the hearing.
well, you gotta do a little more than that, but.
I do?
You've got to.
Unless we have to wait for Savory to
No, no, no.
remember what he
You
said.
get- didn't figure it out?
I'm not gonna remember, it, right, I didn't write it down, I should
Go
have.
ahead.
So I'll second that.
Well, I gotta do the Lot 4B, Wenham Road, DEP file 126-562.
There you go.
That's okay. We don't, for just closing the hearing, we don't.
Yeah, you don't have to say that for closing, you're right.
It's okay.
My fault.
Anyway,
I
Issue
took
an order of conditions.
I second
for
that.
File number.
okay, it's been moved and seconded to close the hearing on
You should, 'cause that's-
Lot 4B, Wenham Road, 126-562. All those in favor? Oh, let's take a vote. No.
I'll get a second on the closing if that's what you
No, I
want.
didn't,
Okay.
I seconded
All those in favor, please say aye.
it. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? Oh, good. Now, then, we have conditions, anything like?
Yeah, I'll let you take a look at them, with some of the stuff we talked about.
Uh-huh.
And then, like I said, when, the little thing about the covenant, maybe I'll have Rich Cirque take a look at it, just see if it's worded right, because he did have a covenant, in the last one.
Yeah,
So I
sure.
figured maybe, we
We'll
could do that
continue the
through-
covenant through as part of it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the double hay bales and the posts, which we talked about, not double hay bales, double hay bale.
Double stake, double bales.
And then I did, the precedent thing. I wrote that for
That was
first
it.
condition. I'll
Yes.
let you read it. Yes, everyone to.
That was it.
There it is.
And it is important.
I knew it.
That,
So see if you like that, how that's worded.
okay,
He just doesn't want it to be like a,
yeah, okay.
Here's your drink.
And this is where actually why I had
He doesn't drink, though.
issues at the very beginning.
So put it as, after we,
Well, we were almost out
I'll
of here.
read what it says, and there's probably a little bit more, but it said, "It should be noted that this OOC does not set precedent for construction of structures within the 100-foot buffer zone. However, because the applicant has made a significant effort, realignment of lot lines, et cetera, to remove all activity from within the 50-foot buffer, and with the exception of the installation of a well, no variance is required under the bylaw. The work within the 100-foot buffer is permitted." I would also add to this
Yep.
that this almost is a hardship
Okay, yeah,
because this is the only area
Right.
on this property
Okay.
that can be built.
yeah,
Failure to grant
And
this would
that,
be a hardship.
that is the reason why
okay,
we're allowing this, is because there is nowhere else on the property
Yeah.
for this dwelling to be
Yeah.
built. And it would be a hardship to the property owner
Okay.
not to be able to do that.
okay.
So that was it. Good. I
No,
feel a
that's
lot better.
well
I
done.
think actually the circumstances for granting this, because I think I was the one at the meeting we had downstairs that mentioned to the attorney that they love that word precedent, because he came in with 4 other places that we had.
The
The
four
board had
other
approved.
projects, yeah.
And
So we're meeting.
every variance is independent. Really
Understood.
has nothing to do with the prior and has nothing to do with the future, so I think we just want to make sure that that's
No,
it.
absolutely understood on this end.
Right, yeah, I mean, for instance, if behind this wetland there was dry land.
Yeah,
build
right,
enough to
right.
build a house,
They would-
then we would probably say,
Well, now you
no,
want
put it back
sign
here.
too?
Yeah.
But in this particular case, there's nowhere else.
And I agree, and there's over an acre of upland on the
Sign it,
on
and
the
then,
lot.
and then
you
what I
know?
do with them was
So,
just,
But we just want to, again,
Understood.
put that into the conditions so that the future.
The next time,
The
yeah,
next
right.
guy comes in and says, well, you let this guy do it, and we say, well, this is the order of conditions.
It makes sense.
Mr. Savory's statement was a classic lawyer approach to try and introduce something which really wasn't legitimate, but he thought that he might be able to get accepted
that
by
didn't work.
saying that this is a precedent, this is a precedent. Well, it may be a precedent in his mind, but it's not a precedent to us because we're making each decision based on the merits of that case. And that's lawyer's
No,
talk.
I understood, I understood a couple of months ago when you guys made that very clear.
Yeah.
you were at that hearing, weren't you?
I was at the last one, but I was not at
Oh.
one downstairs.
Oh.
I was
Oh,
at the
no,
one
okay,
where
the
you brought
informal
the
one, yeah.
precedent issue up.
Right. Before we go too far, we've only closed the hearing. We haven't voted on.
That's true. No, we
right,
did.
so-
Okay, that's right. We haven't voted on the thing. So
Voted to close.
before we
We do
sign it all, we ought
appreciate
to.
your signature.
ought to approve.
So I make a motion to approve the variance for Lot 4B, Wenham Road, DEP 126-562.
And I'll second that. I never thought I'd be saying
It's
that.
been moved and seconded to, well, along with the variance
And the order of conditions.
and the order of conditions, yeah. Been moved and seconded to approve the issuance of variance and the order of conditions for Lot 4, is it 4B, Wenham Road? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's passed unanimous.
Now you can sign it. Oh, you were-
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
Take
you.
care.
Tell Rich, maybe I'll send Rich, like, I could
Think
just
twice
send him
before
a
you come
copy of
before
what-
us again.
See what he thinks. Yeah,
So that's it.
That'd be great.
I'll let them know.
okay.
Oh, man, that was a workout.
Great solution.
Yeah, I thought we came up with good stuff on both sides.
was mostly done by Mr. Emerson. He came up with that all.
Well,
That in front of the computer was one of the, did it himself.
That's good.
Well, in driving by that property, you saw the two that are in front and the one in the back, and I said, there's a, and we talked about it all here.
Yeah.
And Jim brought it up in the meeting, but, there's wiggle room here, so we all talked about
It was
it.
fortunate that
He's
it worked
lucky that
out
he's
as
still-
well as it did.
It's lucky that he still owns it and stuff.
Yeah,
Because
really,
otherwise, he wouldn't
really.
have been able to do that.
Okay, Jim.
Or we would
How
have
about
We
to
had
buy
to,
it.
yeah, yeah.
A
yeah.
motion to adjourn?
I will make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second that.
Okay, and I'll third it.
Thank you, Bob.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn the meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passed unanimous.
Next time.